طيب، السلام عليكم جميعا. Welcome to AWS Riyadh User Group again. We back after a long time. Today we have a great session, inshallah, with Abdelrahman, Awad, and Mohamed Fazalullah from AWS. Session will be about AWS reInvent recap, and we will have a great summary for the announcement, big announcement for the last reInvent. So let's welcome Abdurrahman and Fazal. Floor is yours.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Ahmed. So maybe also a quick introduction on my side. My name is Abdelrahman Awad. I work as a senior solution architect. I've been with AWS for almost 3.5 years now. I am new to this user group and I'm super happy to be here. Thank you, Ahmed, for arranging this. I see it as a good opportunity to socialize and share knowledge with the community here. So I'm looking forward for more of it. And together with me, I have Fazlullah or Mohamed Fazlullah or Faz, our biggest hero. So over to you.
Alhamdulillah, Jazakallah khair. Hey everyone, Mohamed Fazalullah, also known as Faz. I'm a developer advocate based out of Dubai. The community is not new to me, unlike what Abdelrahman mentioned. Alhamdulillah, it's been something that we've been working with Ahmed Sameer for quite some time, who is the hero of Saudi. Awesome to be here to share about insights from reInvent, share about some exciting announcements that have happened. Even though reInvent happened all the way in December, there's still some interesting things. Especially, you can see that we're still announcing things. We just announced Cloud Sonnet 3.7 support right through Bedrock yesterday. There's a lot of exciting things happening in AWS. Happy to be here to share some of those things.
Awesome. So yeah, as I said, like we have a lot of slides and a lot of demos. So maybe we'll go through them quickly. And just let's talk about reInvent first. Quick introduction, just to give you a glimpse. reInvent is our biggest conference. It happens in December in Las Vegas, and this typically contains a lot of announcements, a lot of customer stories. And I'm one of the people who I'm looking forward also to get some Saudi customers to reInvent next year. A lot of cases. Let's work on it. So this is one of the things we are all working on as well. It is the biggest hype. It's like the entire city is talking AWS when you're there. I've been in 2023. And this is where I actually met Fazlullah as well. Mahmoud, your iPhone is on. Your camera is on. I hate to break it for you. I'm sorry about that. Anyway, so yeah, in Vegas, everyone is taking AWS during this period, and it's a lot of hype. It's a lot of hype. So going to next slide. This year, in 2024, we had roughly 60,000 attendees, and there have been around 400,000 keynote online people who are watching the keynotes, and a lot of sessions. But what's interesting here is that we had a total of 546 new announcements. Basically in the period between October and December. So typically we have some new announcements that happened between October and November, and that was in total of 422, and then 124 that happened during reInvent. So this is just some numbers, and I said we have a lot of things to cover, so let's dive into it. Just a quick walk through some of the keynotes that you might be interested to look at after this session. We will not cover it all, but typically it starts by by Peter, who is typically talking about utilizing computing. And one of the key items that was announced in his keynote is Trainium 2, which we will cover also in the next slides. This year, we had Matt Gorman, our AWS CEO, having the keynote. This is the first year for Matt Gorman to be at reInvent keynote, and he's our new CEO, but he has been at AWS for a very long time. So it's also definitely worth watching. And in his speech, he covered different areas: compute, storage, database, inference, and analytics, which again, something we will cover. And this year, we had also our godfather, Andy Jassy coming to Matt's keynote. So Andy Jassy was our previous AWS CEO, and now he is the CEO for the entire Amazon group. And during his session, he announced our large language model, Amazon Nova, and announced the Amazon Nova family as well. This is something that we will cover in the generative AI section. And of course, Dr. Warner, our CTO, I personally find his talks very interesting, because he starts his talk with or he have his session as a storytelling, and typically it's very interesting. And he have his famous shirts that actually also tells something about his session every year. And this year was about how to handle complexity and how to use AWS services as your partner to simplify your solutions and handle complexity of large scale solutions. So this is just a quick walkthrough, like keynotes that maybe worth looking after on the different streaming platforms. After this session, of course. So today we will cover most of those topics, but as I said, we only have 2 hours, so we'll try to go through it as quickly as possible. And please just stop us if there's any need. I think we'll try to cover most of them except for the analytics part. So hopefully I'm on the right pace now. I'm not speeding up, and everybody can keep up. Please let me know if I should slow down at some point as well. And our first section is inference. A lot of hype is going on with GenAI and machine learning, as you all have seen. There is a model release quite often now, and every model is surpassing the other models' numbers. So one of the things we announced at reinvent was Amazon Nova, our foundation models for generative AI. And Amazon Nova is a family of models. In this slide, you can see all the 6 of them, and I'll just quickly walk you through each model just to describe what it does and what is the difference of those models in this family. Basically, Amazon Nova Micro is text, generates text, and delivers that on a lowest latency responses at a very low cost. So it's a speedy model that you can use it to generate text. And then we have Amazon Nova Lite, which is your model to generate images and videos, also at a low cost and a high speed. And then Amazon Nova Pro, which is basically your highly scalable multi-model, which is best for scenarios where you have combined data, or you need accuracy, and it comes with cost of wide ranges. So all those models are basically generating text. And then we will go to the multi-models, which generates images and videos as well, Amazon Nova Canvas and Amazon Nova Reels. And then coming up, also coming soon, Amazon Nova Premiere, which is our most capable multi-model. So this is just a quick walkthrough the different foundation models that we have announced. And to give you some examples on how Amazon Nova Pro would work. So this is an input where it supports, you can upload your image, and this image, for example, contains some historical information about the stock price or shares over the years and how it was sold, etc. And then through the input prompt, you can actually ask it to give you the price per share in that sense, to calculate it. And then output, it will give you like a trace of how it did the calculation, and then understanding all the numbers within this image, and finally give you the values you have asked for. So this was an example for Amazon Nova Pro. Next is actually Amazon Nova Canvas, and this is the one we talked about that can generate images. It can be done. You can specify different criterias, like if it should be what is the image dimensions, and for example, have advanced features like color plating and background removing, and those are also examples that we will walk through in the next slides. Yeah, so let's see some examples, and I promise you there is a lot of GenAI, but there is also a lot of things coming up like serverless and other technologies. So let's talk about the GenAI part. And I know you're seeing a lot of this a lot of hype going on about this, but it's also worth trying those models, because they are our own native Amazon models that comes through Bedrock. Yeah. So text to image, this is just an example where you can generate, you can enter some text describing a dinosaur in a teacup, and it will generate those images. Another example where you can actually use an image as an input and add some masking prompts and text prompts to enhance this image. Another way that could be used, for example, for retail customers, where you can actually add your own products and then describe how you envision these products to be embedded into an image, and then it can be used as a marketing image, for example. So a lot of use cases. Another one is actually combining all your images together, or uploading multiple images to generate yet a new one based on the images you have provided. And one of also the famous cases where you can upload your image and then ask it to remove your background, for example, for LinkedIn profile pictures or others. So yeah, those are some of the capabilities that our model support. And next is actually Amazon Nova Reel. So this is really going to help with video production, enabling those extensive technical skills to bring their ideas to life. So basically, you can use Amazon Nova Reel as an input. You can convert text to video, or use an image to video, or other cases. Again, we will have multiple examples on the cases. So let's dive into those slides straight on to give you a glimpse on what Amazon Nova Reels give you. So this is an example of a prompt where we added a text, noodles falling into a bowl of soup, and this is a video generated for you on the spot. Another example where we can actually share a picture and then give it camera specifications. Oh, no, this is another example of text to video. Sorry about that. But in this example, we are basically controlling the camera view, and also giving it some scenery, like it should be cinematic, and it should have some kind of lighting as well. So you have more control on the camera, on the theme, and on the lighting. All these are configurations that you can just add to your text to generate those videos. Next is the one that I talked about, is image to video. So let's say you have a static image that you want to bring live to. That could be a common scene, or maybe even some of your products that you want to mobilize their background. So basically, you can upload an image, upload and write your prompt, and then this image will be converted into yet another video. Another example of an image to video where you are uploading the image and controlling the camera. So this is just also one way of doing it. And of course, there will be a lot of documentations on how you can do this and examples of prompts. So if you're interested, please log into AWS console and use through Bedrock, utilize Amazon Nova models and generate all those kind of media. Yeah, so multiple examples, as you can see, and not only did we announce Amazon Nova at reinvent, but we're also announcing new models through partners that are coming up soon to be used by Bedrock. So next, so those are the currently supported partner models that are supported by Amazon Bedrock. If you don't know, or if you haven't used Amazon Bedrock yet, it is our generative AI service where you can utilize different models from different partners, including Amazon Nova and Amazon Titan, to generate all kind of media or text as well that you need. But what is also very exciting or announced that now we also have an Amazon Bedrock marketplace. We are also integrating with one of the most popular 100 models through our own marketplace. So not only you can use Bedrock out of the box models, support models, but you can also, if you see that your organization is interested to utilize some of the other models, you can now use Amazon Bedrock marketplace to purchase those models. Those models can be onboarded, but it's mainly Amazon Web Service that is in charge of onboarding those models to this marketplace at the moment. So yeah, I think over the time, more and more models will be added to the marketplace. So this is just a demo where through the model, through Amazon Bedrock marketplace, now you can see the different models available from the top 100 we just talked about, and then you can also, of course, filter on the dimensions or the kind of modality that you will be using. So whether that is inputting text or image, and also what kind of output you're expecting out of the model. So yeah, multiple capabilities to filter your models in the Bedrock marketplace. So I just wanted to quickly pause and ask you which modality are you most interested in when it comes to generative AI models. And also I'll take a time to quickly pause for a minute because I feel like I'm going on a fast pace, but I say we're already 30 minutes into the meeting. And as I said, we have a lot of things to talk about containers, serverless, and database criteria and developer tools. So maybe write in the chat. Thank you, Anas, for your answer. So you're interested more in all of them. Yeah, sounds like the right answer for me as well. That's cool. Okay, moving on to the next announcement with generative AI is model distillation. So this is the idea of actually having a large model that is having high capabilities to be fine-tuned into a smaller specific tasks model. So you can think about it as a student and teacher relationship, where through your larger models, you can create smaller models that are specific to specific tasks. This concept is called Amazon model, Amazon Bedrock model distillation, and it's also now one of our new announcements that we are now supporting this. So you can go in and distill some of your models, your larger models, into specific smaller ones, which is of course better for performance and also better for cost when it comes to cost optimization. Next is also automated reasoning in Bedrock. So automated reasoning is a way in computer science to try to prevent some of hallucinations. And I have to say, like, hallucination is not necessarily a bad thing when it comes to generative AI, because it controls the amount of creativity of your models. But in specific cases, you also want to minimize hallucination and also want to have like a scientific way of reasoning about those answers. So now we are announcing an automated reasoning as part of Amazon Bedrock guardrails, where you can add your own policies to or teach your models on how to make sure that they are answering based on a specific reasoning flow. And in the next demo, and I'm just checking that you can see the videos actually on the screen sharing. So I'll just pause here before it goes on, if I can. 1 second. Just checking on the chat if you can see the video running. Yes, okay, perfect. So everyone can see the video. So taking it to the start, in this video, we will have a case where we want to train Bedrock model or one of our models to use an HR policy about to answer questions of employees based on their retention total years of work, if they are eligible for specific vacation days. So now we uploaded our leave of absence document that describes briefly the company rules when it comes to vacation days. And then in the prompt here, we are creating, we're telling the reasoning guardrail on how to extract this information and giving them some examples of questions that they might get and how to answer them. Once we have uploaded our HR vacation policy document, our guardrail have analyzed the document based on the prompt and now started creating those 11 rules that you can see in the screen. And then just switching screens. And then in the next, so yeah, it basically created a flow, a reasoning flow on how to decide whether one employee, based on their retention, have stayed or tenure, have stayed in the company, and whether they are eligible for some vacation days and what is the vacation days for their policy. So it can create like a reasoning flow, and that this reasoning flow is actually what we have seen in the rules. So in this demo again, going back to the demo. So yeah, as you can see, it created the list of rules and the list of variables that could be the tenure of the employee, the level of the employee, and other criterias. And then I think in the test background, they will start impersonating one of the employees where they are asking if they're eligible for a leave. And then based on the answers, then it will give you, based on the policy, it will give you the right answer, and it can also give you like a tracing mechanism to see all the variables that was extracted and how it's applied, etc., etc. So yeah, this is very interesting, and I'm also very excited to see what our customers will do with with this guardrail, now that you can actually also control and give some reasoning to your models based on your policies. Next slide would be also supporting multi-model toxicity detection in guardrails. So not only Bedrock can support can prevent toxicity from text content, but it now also supports preventing inappropriate image generations, for example. So you can apply your own policies and also view traces where through your prevention guardrails you have applied or prevented some unneeded content, for example. So in the okay, so there wasn't a demo for it, unfortunately. I think I saw a demo at some point, but maybe you can also try it in your own in Bedrock through AWS console. Another announcement, and I hope you're keeping up with all the news so far. Another announcement is actually now we are supporting prompt routing and prompt caching. So what does that mean? So now with prompt routing, you can choose a model family. Let's say, for example, that could be Meta or Anthropic, and those families comes with different models, just like the Amazon Nova we discussed earlier. It comes with different models. But sometimes you want to automate the routing of your prompt to the right model within this family, based on your inquiry or based on the amount of data you're asking for. So maybe for the simple tasks, you want to just use a simple model where it's cost efficient and speedy. But for the most advanced or for the more advanced inquiries or prompts, you need like the higher version of and the more complex model to handle it. So now we are supporting that to be automatically routing your prompts within specific families. And then we're also caching it. So by caching, for example, you can think of if you are asking documents about like, let's say your organization have specific questions that they ask for against some documents, whether that's like summarize this document or extract the username from this document, etc. So now over time you can actually cache your prompts where you are actually using those prompts to chat with your document, for example. So this is one case that you can use this new feature. Next is also prompt optimization, which means that now not only you can use GenAI to generate text, but you can also use GenAI to enhance your prompt when you're asking your models to do specific tasks. So now this is now supported through Amazon Bedrock. For example, in the screen here, you can see in the prompt, you can see this button called Optimize, where if you click, like in this case, it was summarizing a news announcement. If you click Optimize, then it will generate a better and more efficient prompt with more details to the model on what to do. So yeah, as I said, using GenAI for GenAI as well. So I will take a pause here and ask you a question. How do you usually write your prompts? Okay, Matthias, D, B, and C. Awesome. I see a lot of options there. So there seems like to be a lot of flavors of things on how people prefer to use our prompts or write prompts. All right. Moving on. Multi-agent collaboration in Bedrock. This is personally one of my favorite announcements in the GenAI and machine learning section. So here you can actually now define multi-agents, each agent specialized with a specific task. And then you can use like a manager or a collaboration agent where this collaboration agent can utilize all the specific or the specialized agents for a specific task to generate an overall content. So I know this didn't make sense from what I just said, but maybe for demoing from my demo or from this demo here, I can explain better. So just starting the demo. In this case, we have a content strategy model. This model is specialized with creating social media posts. So it has the knowledge base, it has the understanding on what to use and how to use the social media posts. So that's our first model. And then our next model is specialized in engagement prediction, which means like it have the knowledge base which understands what time it is the right time to post on LinkedIn based on maybe verticalization by industry. So if you're into the IT field, what is the right time? Is it Friday afternoon or is it Sunday in the morning? So it has this knowledge base. And then we have the third agent, which will be like our manager agent that will utilize the other two. So this agent have an information about our campaign. What is it that we are trying to achieve with our social media posts? And then into it now through the demo, we will configure it to use a social media agent specialized with writing posts and the social media prediction agent to tell us when to post our social campaigns to make sure that we get the highest vibe, for example. So here we're editing the agent, and we will go down in this new section called multi-agent collaboration, where we add access to those two specialized agents. And you can see that we added the engagement predictor, and we have specifically instructed or described what this agent is doing and when to use and when for the other agents to use it. So we are training our campaign agents on how to collaborate with other agents to generate our social media. And now we are doing a test where we are telling, okay, now we have a campaign over to the next 2 weeks. Tell us what kind of posts that we should post and what time it should do. And on the right side, you can see that it's actually collaborating with the other two agents, and you can see a full trace of the steps that the GenAI model used to collaborate with the other two agents. And on the left side, it generated an output of all the key features and what time to post them on LinkedIn, for example. So yeah, this is quite interesting and quite exciting. I'm personally looking forward to utilize more of this feature now that we have a lot of models and a lot of agents defined. It would be very interesting to see what we can generate out of all those specialized agents if they can speak and collaborate with each other. So yeah, that is one of my favorite announcements. Moving on to the next slides. Okay, I can skip this this question. We already had it, and this one we already had it before as well. Now we will go to the next section, which would be about storage. So everybody's keeping up. Is it a good speed? Should I make it slower? Should I make it faster? Please let me know in the chat. I'm just taking a quick pause here. Are you keeping up? Thank you, Anas. Amazing. Okay, thank you, Azadeen. All right, so storage. So we have seen like a lot of lake formations are now being done by some industry standards, and one of them is open table format. This is something that helps with scaling your metadata and handling your metadata, enforcing your schema, and time travel support, for example. So this is one of the technology standards now, open table formats, and for that we see different model or languages that are or technologies that are utilizing this standard for creating modern data lakes. Yeah, of all those three, we can see that Apache Iceberg is heavily adopted as one of the technologies in this area. And with that, we today announcing that, or at reInvent, announced Amazon S3 table, which is now utilizing Apache Parquet format, but as a table, so as a Iceberg table. So now you can create an S3 table, and behind the scene or underlying layer, your data will be stored as an Apache Parquet format in the under layer. So this is a new table, and this will be one of the building blocks for your data lakes. You can integrate it with different services, other services with which it will be discoverable there as well, like Amazon Glue catalog and Amazon Lake Formation. This S3 table have the order of magnitude of speed 3 times and throughput 10 times compared to self-managed tables. So we have seen customers creating their own tables, for example, and we predict that this will be 3 times faster and 10 times higher throughput. So this is an interesting announcement that we had. So let me ask you in the chat, are you using Apache Iceberg in your projects? Are you interested about this new feature to build your data lake formations? Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you, Matthias. Okay, you're planning to? Me too, actually, I have to say. I already started using S3 tables in one of my POCs, but yeah, I would love to try it more. Okay, Hassan, you are against it, I see. That's good. Okay, next announcement is Amazon S3 metadata. So we talked about S3 tables in the previous slide, and now you can enable metadata to be stored together with any files that you upload to S3. So before this announcement, you would typically upload all your files, and then you would need to maybe associate those files with a specific metadata, whether that is out of the box metadata like area date of creation or who models created it, or maybe even custom metadata like exchange format or last updated by third party, for example. So you would typically create your own custom solution for this, but on the long run, this wouldn't be as scalable, especially if you run large amount of data. So today we are announcing S3 metadata, where you can enable having metadata associated with the files you're uploading to S3 bucket. And behind the scene, again, as we mentioned, this would be using Apache Iceberg table or the S3 table we discussed in the previous slide. So let's see this in action as a demo. So this is a normal bucket that you would find in your Amazon S3, and if you just checking if the demo, yeah, exactly. So now we're going to a new section called the table buckets, where you create a new table, and this is one of the tables that was created part of the demo, for example. So in this table, it will be associated with your S3 bucket to hold the metadata for the files you're uploading to this bucket. And then next, we will be using Athena Amazon Athena to query that table associated with the bucket. And in the left side, you can see the table schema. So here you can see a lot of the predefined metadata that AWS have attached to your files. And then part of it is also custom metadata property. So before this demo, we have uploaded multiple files to this bucket, and now by this query, we are just going through the different metadata that was attached out of the box to those files. And by the way, one of the key features here is that every time you upload a new version of this file, it will be automatically updated. Those metadata will be automatically updated for you for consistency. I have been myself, I built a solution like 3-4 years ago, custom solution, trying to do this every time I uploaded an S3 file. I tried to have a table, my own table that hold the metadata. Now you can have it out of the box. I think it was in the next slide that we have another demo. No, actually not. Okay, another thing maybe that wasn't part of the demo, I just want to check because I wanted to also show you something. Yeah, in query 2, maybe if I move it faster. Yeah, I'll just move it back. In query 2, we are also now using a query over the custom metadata. So you can define your own metadata. And in this case, those files we have generated was generated by Amazon Bedrock through the Amazon Nova family. And you can see that part of the out of the box custom metadata generated from our models, that it actually tag our files that was a model version, for example, generating those files. So yeah, this would be very interesting for integrations projects where you're exchanging data or exchanging files. It's also important to attach those files, for example, with your metadata. Next is actually clock bound. This is something that we have built to decrease clock errors across all or across our AWS regions. So not only did we build the network backend, the security backend, the network backbone and the security foundation for the different regions. Now we have our own clock that is synchronizing times across all the regions or most of the regions to make sure that transactions are happening without errors, without time errors. So this is a very interesting technology that I'm also very interested to dive deep into, because it have enabled also some of our key announcements for the database section that we will go through now. So databases. Amazon announcing Amazon Aurora D-SQL. So Amazon Aurora supports different, it's our service that supports different database models like MySQL, Postgres, and others. We had a serverless version of it, and we also have an active, but now we are announcing an active multi-region capabilities. So not only it can be distributed across multi-regions, it is serverless, and it can support active-active. And what do we mean by active-active? This is one of the things that I see a lot of business cases, and it couldn't have been available without the cloud-bound I described in the previous slide. So basically, now you can read and write information across two distributed databases, or the same database kind of, but distributed across two different regions, and have a strongly consistent performance, and having it also durable at the same time. So in the previous days, before this announcement, for example, if you wanted to have, and it's in the DynamoDB section, not in Aurora, but DynamoDB, for example, had a global table where you can write in one region, and then we guarantee you an eventual consistency in the other region. But that means that there might be a delay before it's eventually consistent and synchronized across the two regions. Now, with this capability, you can write in the same instant, and you are sure that this new row that you're adding will be synchronized at the same time and strongly consistent in the two other regions, which means that all your users across all the regions will get the same data when they're reading, and will input the same, and will be affected by any inputs across all the regions. So I hopefully described this to you well, or explained it well. I am, again, I know I'm excited about a lot of things, but I'm very excited about about the technology behind this feature, because I also tried to build a solution, or even build a workshop 4 years ago, and the only capabilities that I could utilize back then was a global DynamoDB table, which is a NoSQL technology that we'll come to, and it was only promising an eventual consistency. Now we can support strong consistency across the regions with Amazon Aurora DSQL. So no more delays of data. It's always updated no matter which region you are being served from. So to give you a quick demo, this is our cluster, Aurora DSQL, and we are running from North Virginia region. And you can see that's now linked, have a linked cluster in Ohio. And we will go through our Cloud Shell and try to access and read this database through the new token now that we're using, that you can utilize through the Cloud Shell, and be able to query this database, for example, to show that right now it have 0 items. Continuing the demo. Maybe there's a glitch. I'm just checking. Yeah, it is the same demo. Okay, so that demo was about querying the database. Next is the one that I was waiting for, is actually now let's start adding items. And please notice this green label here. So now we are utilizing this application, and I'm a user in US East 1, and I'm trying to read the shopping list from this Aurora DSQL database. And if I run the demo, now we will start adding a new records, and I'm just saying that, okay, we are from North Virginia, I'm adding a new item. And if you switch to, again, now notice the blue label and the title, we switch the regions, but we still see all the reads and write are synchronized across the different regions, and that happens instantly, is strongly consistent thanks to the cloud-bound clock that we have added to our infrastructure. And if we query Ohio, it would be the same case. So now we're going to Ohio. We're trying to read the items. You can see that 2 rows are added to the same item. Okay, next is using disaster recovery, or making sure that our database will still be available if we, I think it's a repetition of the demo, so I'm just moving to the next demo here. Now we will try to take one of the clusters or one of the regions down and see if the data will still be consistent from one region, and then when the other region is back up, then it will be synchronized. All the modifications and reads will be synchronized to this other region when it's back online. So notice again the green label here. Now we're running from US East 1. We're adding new from North Virginia, just a new item, and we'll go back to the console. And now we are using disaster our service to test the infrastructure, and we're adding a new capabilities that let's assume that now we're taking off that region or that specific fault injection. The service is called fault injection, and fault injection is basically simulating some maybe defects in your infrastructure. So now we are simulating that one of the regions is down, and notice that now if you switch to the other browser that was being served from US East 2, if they refresh, I think they will be now served from, oh, it is in the next demo, of course. So now we are watching from US East 1. It's the same demo. Okay, I think the videos are, I'll just quickly go through the demos here. 1 second. Yeah, using fault injection, let's go back. So now we are simulating a fault injection, and we were using US East 1. I will start adding a new item. And it's using it. I think in the start of the video, it was using the blue region. Yeah, you get the idea. I think I'm not keeping up with the video. Maybe that's my fault. But the thing is, if you are trying to, yeah, Aurora DSQL now supports also, like, it can fall back to one of the regions that is using in case of one, in case there is any disasters that you need to recover from. So we talked about multi-region strongly consistency in Aurora DSQL. That's also available in Amazon DynamoDB. So that's our NoSQL database type, where you can actually as well have the same features, like writing at the same time and reading at the same time, synchronized across all the regions. So I think there is a demo about that as well. So now we are in a DynamoDB table, and we talked about global tables, and global tables, which can be, and I will try to pause here in this video. We talked about eventually consistency. That was before the announcement. Now we have strong consistently, where we guarantee on the same time the records will be replicated across the two regions. So now not only DynamoDB supports eventual consistency, it also supports strong consistency across multi-region for your distributed systems. Perfect. So before talking about DynamoDB throughput, I'm just taking a look at the time, and we have 1 hour left, so that's good. I think we are on track. I just wanted to hear from the people. Are you keeping up? Is it good? Is it clear? What are you excited about from the announcements we have been through so far? Share your thoughts, and I will take a sip of water in the meantime. It's clear. Thank you. It's good. Thank you. All right. So it's a good recap so far. Okay. Moving on to our yet next announcement. I lost counting now. How many announcements have we went through? Okay. Amazon DynamoDB warm throughput. So with this update, we're providing you a visibility into the numbers of read and write operations your DynamoDB table can readily handle while pre-warming. I'm just reading through the slide. Let's say you're proactively increase the value to meet future traffic demands. Okay. Just to explain what this is about, basically, when you create your DynamoDB, depending on the scale of reads and writes, DynamoDB will be infrastructure will be scaling up or scaling down based on the traffic. Now with this new feature, we are giving you the ability to configure a warm throughput to handle to keep those resources or to keep this infrastructure warm to handle any upcoming throughput without a cold start. So it is a resources that you'll keep them warm. You'll keep them based on the number you will define to keep this your DynamoDB table running to handle any spikes or sudden spikes while it's warming up or while it is scaling more resources to handle all the read and writes. And there is a demo for it. So now we are creating a new DynamoDB table. We're giving it a partition key, a sort key, and then instead of using the default settings, we will choose customize settings. And then you can see here, there is a new section called warm throughput, where you can increase the warm throughput capabilities for writes. Yeah, so that was a demo for this new feature. We're also happy to announce a reduction for Amazon DynamoDB pricing from November 2024. 1st of November, we have reduced our price for on-demand throughput by 50% and for global tables by 67%, making it more cost efficient. So yeah, it's good to see more price reductions. I think there is, yeah, I mean, if you track the prices, there is always some reductions happening with AWS services over the time. And yet another multi-region active feature, just like we talked with DynamoDB and Aurora DSQL. Now Amazon MemoryDB is having the same capabilities where you can create an active multi-region cluster. So which global database presented is the most useful to you? Aurora DSQL, DynamoDB, global tables, MemoryDB, multi-region. Please share your thoughts. I'm alone in this room, so I just need to make sure that you people are online and interacting. So that's good. I see a lot of chat here, so I love that. Amazing. Thank you guys for. Okay, A seems like a popular option, and B as well. That's good. For me, it's B actually. I like DynamoDB and I like using global tables. So I'm looking forward to utilize more of this service in the future with a strongly consistency capabilities. Awesome. Moving on. Elastic Cache, Valky now have a new version that is 5 times faster than the previous one, or Valky 7.2. And it allows for memory usage reduction of up to 20%. So if you're using Amazon Elastic Cache Valky, now you have a new option to utilize a new engine version, which would give you a better performance and a better optimization of memory as well. So that's also one of the interesting announcements. I will skip this question and this question for now. And now we are moving to our next section. Computing. What is new with computing? So at the start of our slides, I mentioned the keynote for Peter, who announced Trainium 2. Trainium is Amazon microchip that is custom built for AWS and is designed to deliver highest performance. It's typically used for machine learning, for example, and it's used to do high compute operations with high performance and high throughput. Trainium 2 is 4 times faster and 4 times also better with memory bandwidth and 3 times more memory capable than the first generation of our chip Trainium 1. So we're keeping on enhancing, we're keeping on innovation with our GPUs, and we are building new chips to keep up with all the different models and the compute power that's needed in the modern days. So with Trainium 2, we are also announcing our Ultra server offering, which is a single server that is which is completely a new EC2 offering powered by Trainium chip. So yeah, you can see the capabilities in the screen here. It consists of 2 racks, and each rack consists of 4 servers connected together via neural link, providing the highest performance machine learning compute in EC2 family or EC2 service. So it is our Ultra server based on Trainium 2. So this could be a very good if you are into training models and inference and all that. Then it's definitely recommending this reading about this new capability or this new announcement. So at reinvent, we announced Trainium 2. But we are still thinking about the future. So you can already see some of our plans for the future, announcing Trainium 3 coming soon. And we're expecting that Trainium 3 would be more 2 times faster, not faster, but I won't say higher compute power than Trainium 2, and it will utilize 40% less energy for the same performance. So yeah, a lot of investments, a lot of innovation in the shipments area, and it's one of the things that I'm also very keen to explore and utilize in the future. I will skip this question, and now we're done with compute. So we talked about GenAI model inference, we talked about databases, we talked about compute, and now I come to my final section about serverless before handing it over to Faz, where he will speak to us about the different tools when it comes to developer experience and business experience and so on. Serverless is one of my favorite areas, especially if you're looking into modernization or building your own custom solutions. And one of the key interesting announcements we announced was event source mapping for Lambda. So now Lambda can provision or scale based on of event source mapping by subscribing, for example, to Apache Kafka. It allows you to optimize throughput of your Kafka source mapping by provisioning events and pulling resources that remain ready to handle sudden spike in traffic. So to explain this, basically, we're giving you the capability through event source mapping to watch your Apache Kafka event sources and predict the spikes and be able to scale your Lambda functions, handling them based on the event sourcing. So in this demo, we're in a Lambda function, we're adding a trigger, and now you can see that we can do a new source, Apache Kafka, based on this new feature for event sourcing. So now you can provision, you can configure the provisioning mode for Apache Kafka based on the amount of pullers that will be predicted from the Apache Kafka source. Yes, we are also giving now announcing event source mapping in CloudWatch metrics. So this is one of the commonly requested features is being able to have an overview through CloudWatch. CloudWatch is our monitoring solution monitoring service, and through the solution monitoring service CloudWatch, now you can utilize event source mapping to get insights on the events state and whether they are handled or not, how many events have been handled with an error, how many events have been deleted from, for example, Amazon SQS or Amazon Kinesis or Amazon DynamoDB event sourcing integrations. So if you're building an event-driven architecture, for example, and you have some handlers listening to specific events, and you want to get insights of whether this event have been the count of the successful handling of this event or the count of failures of handling this event or deletions of this event, etc. Now we are giving you the capability to do event source mapping through CloudWatch metrics. So I hope this explains this well and gives you insights. This is a very good addition to monitor your event-driven architecture, for example, or serverless architecture as well. And next is AWS step function. Now supports JSON data and variables. So if you have been using AWS step function before, you know that it is our workflow service to move through different phases of executions or different steps of executions. And in the previous days, when you're moving from one step to another, you had to pass over the entire state of this step function flow. Now we're giving you the capability to define variables and JSON data to add, instead of moving from one, passing all the payload from one state to another. You can just assign your own variables and utilize them in the next step. So let's see this in action using the demo here. So here we have two state machines for step functions, one that is refactored and one that's not refactored. And let me start the video. Before and after this announcement. So let's take a look. What was the difference? So before the announcement, if we dive into the state machine, in the right, you can see that each step had a big tree of data, a big tree of JSON, and this JSON holded the state for step function. Now, and to keep this state, you had to move this JSON format from one step to another. So he's just walking us through the different states and the different steps, and he's showing the payload of an input that we are passing to that state machine. And as I said before, state input, you had to take it and then take the same payload and pass it, or the same JSON data, and pass it as a state output to the next step. So you needed to pass the JSON data, the entire JSON data, from one state or one step to another. And for the small workflows that could be handled, that's might be fair. But over time, if your step function starts to growing, then you maybe would like to utilize a variable mechanism where you can define a specific variable and then assign this being able to access this variable across all the different steps without having to pass it from one step to another every time you move from one step to the next one. So after refactoring, basically again, he's just walking us through the JSON format, and now through JSON queries, you can access this data. So let's give it a while. I'll wait a little, because in the execution phase, you can now see that you also define your JSON variables that can be just accessed from whatever step you're in, instead of having to pass it from one place to another. This is a key improvement to me. If I'm using step functions, I had to worry about whether my data have been passed and if it is in the right format and if it's readable. Now you can just utilize the variables, and you can see now, for example, in the variables from one step function, that this variable has now been assigned, and what is the value for this variable. And you can see that this variable can also be accessed in the next steps. So quite interesting, quite good improvement. So hopefully this will give you a better experience when you are building your step functions, especially if you're building one of the more complex and long ones. Okay, skipping this question and going to Amazon EKS Kubernetes, Amazon Elastic Kubernetes Service. So Amazon Elastic Kubernetes Service is our service to host containers using Kubernetes platform. And previously, we have seen customers provision their own. If you're onto Kubernetes clusters, then you will provision your own control plane, your provision your compute infrastructure, you deploy your own application. You will have to utilize maybe third-party tools to monitor your cluster, and manually and proactively optimize and update and patch your Kubernetes cluster and install extra plugins. So this is how our customers previously used Amazon EKS. But today, or at reInvent, we announced EKS Auto Mode. This automates the entire Kubernetes cluster infrastructure for you. So it is something that you can create enable for new clusters, or enable for existing ones. It includes core capabilities for production-ready clusters. It automatically provisions the infrastructure for you. It dynamically scales the resources based on the consumption and utilization, and continuously try to optimize cost by, for example, minimizing the instance type or changing to instance family in the compute power in the background, and automatically update your nodes and cluster capabilities based on the latest node versions and cluster capabilities that we have, or you have deployed as well. So yeah, Auto Mode is your kind of your assistant to get rid of the headaches of maybe self-managing, or not self-managing is not the right word, but operating EKS. Auto Mode will operate it for you. And of course, we are also giving you the capabilities to customize how Auto Mode will behave based on your preferences. Another thing, we actually would like to discuss is Amazon EKS Hybrid and Amazon EKS Anywhere. Those are currently services that have been announced many years or months maybe ago before. But how did we come here? So self-managed Kubernetes on-premise comes with operational overhead, long-term commitment of your infrastructure resources, your on-premise servers, the amount of people who can manage on-premise Kubernetes clusters are limited when you're looking into skills, capabilities. So there is a lot of maybe challenges that comes with managing your own Kubernetes cluster on-premise. So with that, as I said some years ago, we announced Amazon EKS Hybrid or Edge, where you can actually deploy Amazon EKS on Outpost. And it was announced in 2019. Amazon EKS on Amazon Outpost. So Outpost is an on-premise infrastructure that AWS provides to you, depends on your case or your business needs, and then over this device or physical device that you'll get, you can utilize Amazon EKS to deploy your container workloads on top of Outpost. Now, Outpost is not only about Amazon EKS, it also supports other services and features, but at least this is one of the services that you can use in case of you want to manage, have a managed on-premise infrastructure for you while you're deploying your own containers. There was also other scenarios where you wanted to manage Amazon EKS Anywhere, so customer managed cluster operations, which means that you want to deploy your infrastructure or manage it on-premise while accessing it in the cloud. I think this part I'm a bit. EKS is supported Kubernetes managed software that simplifies the infrastructure provisioned and lifecycle managed of Kubernetes cluster or infrastructure you manage it. I'm sorry, I think I've been speaking for a while now, but this part I need to double check is, but I just want to go to the specific feature that we are now announcing, Amazon EKS Hypernode. This new feature allows you to enroll your on-premise infrastructure nodes that you have today that's hosting your own Kubernetes self-managed clusters, and by simply connecting it to Amazon EKS Hypernodes, then you can utilize the Amazon EKS capabilities from the cloud, from the console, from AWS console. Now you can manage your nodes that are hosted to you on your on-premise infrastructure. So this is quite interesting. So now you can host your Kubernetes cluster on a managed servers Outpost, or a managed infrastructure on-premise for you Outpost, which means Amazon EKS on AWS Outpost. But then you can also use Amazon EKS console and capabilities to manage your own on-premise infrastructure servers in that sense. Yes. So I have multiple questions here, but I think I've been speaking for a while, and you can hear maybe that I'm starting to lose focus. So now is the right time to hand it over to my favorite colleague, Fazalullah.
Hey, yeah, I mean, just when I started, it's got noisy in the office, so yes, just give me a sec until this dude just disappears. But thanks,
That's good.
Abdelrahman. You covered a lot of announcements. I mean, even for me, it was like breathless for me, literally, right? You're going through so many of these announcements, and that's basically how recaps go. When we do our recaps across, especially this one which we did, this was based on the EMEA recap that we did in Jan, and it took us 3 hours to cover all of this, right? A lot of the announcements, a lot of the demos, and also answering questions also at the same time. So thank you again for this, and thank you to everyone who's been asking also questions. Let me share my screen. So
Thank you, Faz. I appreciate it.
yeah, I should work now. It's working. Okay, sweet. All right. So this is the last section. So after this is just a QR code, which we'll be using for getting our feedback. But we'll be ending this with tools. And why tools is important is because if you've noticed a lot of the announcements, they talk about the different features, the different services, whatever we have announced. And end of the day, it's the tools that wrap and connect all of this together, right? In terms of how you're going to use it and what capacity you're going to use it. In our case, we're going to be dividing this section into two personas, and a lot of this is going to be around our Q offering. So it gives you an idea of how much Amazon is focusing on delivering an interesting AI experience. You've seen a bit of that through the Nova models. You've seen a bit of that through other announcements that we have that Abdelrahman actually shared earlier. In this case, we'll start with the business product persona first, right? And in this case, we've seen in a lot of customers that the business or product persona, they're the folks who actually ask for business insights. They ask for, okay, data sources in multiple platforms. And some of the things that Abdurrahman kind of covered helps in that, right? From an analytics perspective, for example, interop perspective, Apache Iceberg is actually a very important thing for us. It allows us to share a lot of the data across between services. And that's kind of like how you want to look at it. But in our case with Q and Q Business specifically, if folks who don't know what Q Business is, this is a generative AI assistant. It understands your organization's content, which allows you to then connect with other enterprise applications. They think like Confluence, think Office 365, Google Drive, and GitHub. And the whole idea of Q is that it's a conversational assistant. So it allows you to have these connectors to ingest content from these different sources. And then it helps your business users to ask questions. So all of this remains within your account. So it's easy for you to, to control and then keep access within just that place. And because it comes with a managed web experience, it's easy for you to set up. But also at the same time, it's easy to also build custom applications using APIs that are available. So before reinvent happened, just a few weeks before reinvent, a couple of announcements came out. It was really busy. So one of the things that we announced was connections to more sources. So like things like Asana, things like Google Calendar and Smartsheet. And we also released browser extensions and private sharing in Q apps, data collection in Q apps, and also user experience improvements. In this case, two things that really jumped out to me was first that there's tabular search of the visual elements. So before, Amazon Q Business could provide accurate answers from a narrative text. But getting answers from tables required some special handling of more structured information. The idea was you would have to convert that table into another intermediate format and then afterwards try to extract. Now it's easier from tables that are embedded in documents in Q Business. And also the web browser extension is pretty useful. So we'll just have a look at that quickly over here. And in this case, as you can see, with the browser extension, what this does is it gives you the option to summarize a page. So anyone, let's say in your company or in your organization, can actually use this immediately to start like summarizing any of the pages, get like browser intelligence, receive context-aware assistance, right? And especially useful when you want to do this for private pages, right? Like you have your own internal wiki, for example, and then you want your teams to be more productive with that, but you want to have like control over it, right? So browser extensions definitely is an option from there that you can check. Now at reInvent, there were other things that we announced. So 50 new actions for integrations were added, like things like Slack, Microsoft Teams, and others. So in this case, as you can see in this demo over here, through Slack, you can actually interact with Q and have that, like that feel of just not leaving the window and then just integrating with all the data that you have. Also workflow automation capability and the ability to use Q index by our partners. You also have the option of integrating Q Business with QuickSight. So this allows you to have a unified approach to answering questions, right? From structured data sources, because with QuickSight, you'll also have access. You would have probably plugged in like databases or your data warehouses, for example, or any unstructured data, right? If it's in an S3 bucket, like documents, wikis, emails, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot that actually can be done through these announcements. The other thing is also that we have the option of workflow automation. This is coming very soon. So in this case, what you do is you just describe your desired workflow using natural language, and then you can upload a standard operating procedure document, right? Or record a video of the process being performed and then upload that. What QBusiness does is it uses GenAI to automatically author a detailed workflow plan from your inputs in minutes. So think about this for departments, for example, who are trying to create context around their processes and then share that with others. So this workflow is then you can then use this workflow to test, modify, or approve. So, for example, let's say that a department is handling emails, for example, right? An email process that comes. So, whenever an email arrives, Q can identify whether it's related to a new or an existing claim. So, you can plug this in directly as part of the business workflow, as part of a validation workflow, and then afterwards use that to check, okay, if the email is missing some critical information, then send it back, or else then process it and keep continuing based on that. In this case, what happens is you have a UI agent. It's trained on thousands of websites and applications. It'll keep checking for real-time adjusts also, and you can do all these things. So this is coming soon. This is still in the works, but you should probably hear about a preview in the coming months also. Now let's shift gears. We'll move into the developer persona because a lot of us are developers and builders over here. And as a developer over the years, especially for the last 2-3 years, with all of this movement with generative AI, we are seeing one question rise up, right? One question bubble up across from all the other questions, which is how do developers, or how do I accelerate my development workflow? I see there's a certain tool. I see there's a certain way I can maybe speed up a certain part of the process. How do I do that? And how do I adopt the tool? And then how do I use it productively? And with generative AI assistance to date, most of the focus has been on helping developers in the development stage, right? So where coding companions come in, you'll have like inline coding assistants. You write a comment and then you get some kind of code, or maybe you go to the chat assistant and then you ask the code to actually get some information of, what's this code about? What's the different context about the code? So what we did now is with Q Developer, before it used to be called Code Whisperer, and then with Q Developer renamed, we've been adding on based on customer feedback, understanding how the customers are using it, and we've taken a look at how the SDLC can be enhanced, right, using generative AI. With Q Developer, this manifests itself through the console and through the IDE. So in this case, you can integrate seamlessly into existing workflows. So you have a developer who's able to use the console first. Maybe they're provisioning something. They ask a question. Okay, how do I start with a 3-tier web application? Once they get that, then afterwards they say, okay, they go back to the IDE and they say, okay, fine. So now I have all this input. I want to kickstart. Okay, generate the base code for me. Or maybe you have the base code already, and then you say, okay, enhance this so that I can make it into a 3-tier architecture, and then deploy it on maybe EC2, or maybe deploy it as a Lambda function, or maybe on Beanstalk, and so on and so forth. So in this case, you can see that Q helps you in a lot of things, right? From the get-go, when Q was announced, it was mainly about the code. You could also do things like document generation and test unit generation, but now we have that as a separate function, as a separate agent already available as part of reinvent's announcements. And the way you want to look at this, the mental model you want to understand is to see what are the kind of things that you as a developer or your team as a team of developers work on, right? You will always have two types. You're going to have the functional requirements, which is like building the code, which is API servers, connecting to the database, for example, SQL queries, data models, authentication of the data. Authentication is always important, and I know that most people always try to roll out their own authentication end of the day. I know I've done 3 of them in the last 20 years. And that's like exclusive of all the other stuff that we've integrated with. And also security, right? So having secure coding practices, making sure that you're using the right dependencies, avoiding vulnerabilities, and so on and so forth. But you also have these other things, which is the non-functional side of things, right? So you have unit test cases, for example. You may also be doing things like system integration test cases. You also have documentation, which is super, super important. As much as everyone talks about, okay, we should be reducing some of the documentation, it is still important, right? Documentation is a great async tool or an async medium for you to sync up with somebody else or bring somebody new to the project and then ramp them up as soon as possible. Then the part of deployment, right? So when you deploy, you want to make sure things are secure. And then at the same time, when you deploy things, the right commands are being used. And then, you're able to then test things out into production. So with Q Developer, now we are slowly enhancing into the non-functional side also, and you're going to see more of these announcements come up in the next coming months. With Create, it's pretty straightforward. So we started with the inline comment part where you write a comment in English, and then afterwards you get, based on the context of which file you are in, you will get a suggested function or a suggested method that you can then accept. and then you can continue, right, as part of that. So you can do generation of code, you can do explanation of code, you can chat with your IDE and then understand what else is happening. One of the cool things I usually do is I always ask, okay, if there's a new code base I'm not able to understand, or even if it's a new language, I ask it, okay, can you explain this like I'm 5, right? If I'm 5 years old, explain this concept to me so I can break it down. Even better if you want to use that to explain it to somebody else. So feature development capability is there for some time. It uses natural language prompts in English, and you can also customize your code as part of the setup. And if you go to like the pro tier, you get also the option to connect your private repository. So let's say you have your private repositories on GitHub or Bitbucket, you can then connect that on QDeveloper, and then you can then have QDeveloper be tuned to the code the way your organization writes, and then give suggestions accordingly, right? Maybe you have templates, maybe you have boilerplate code, or maybe some approaches or design patterns of how you want to do that. QDeveloper will then learn that and then do that, and that all of that is within your account. It doesn't go outside of your account in any form. So it helps you to understand your internal code base. Now, before reInvent, we announced a couple of things. So the pro tier received some updates for administrators and regular users to track their activity. So for pro users, what happens is there's a dashboard that's already available that until before reInvent used to give a high level overview of how many suggestions are being accepted, how much of that is positive, so that you can measure developer productivity and how much time is being saved at an org level or at a team level. Now we've added some more things. You can't drill down to a very specific user. That's not what we want as part of this. It's not a time tracking or a task tracking tool, but it is a way to at least gauge what is productivity in your team, right? Also now QDeveloper can help with troubleshooting CloudFormation. So when you use CloudFormation resources, you can troubleshoot that because you have the AWS extension for CloudFormation that allows you to see all the stacks that are coming in, so you can debug that. Then we have also announced support for Eclipse. So it's a public preview because we have a lot of customers we are seeing who are in the banking sector, in the government sector, who prefer using Eclipse in Java, especially, right? Because it's a IDE that's been tested, it's been AppSec approved by the security teams internally for a long time, and they feel more comfortable with that than with other things. So we announced Eclipse support because we had this as a request from a lot of customers. Also, from a QDeveloper transformation perspective, the CLI tool can now do step-by-step upgrades from Oracle SQL to PostgreSQL for Java applications, right? So this is before reInvent. And with reInvent specifically, we've announced 3 things. And also some capabilities in the transformation side. So the first one is that you can enhance documentation and code bases using /doc. So we have agents that are available in QDeveloper that allows you to put a slash, and then afterwards you can put that agent name over there. So you can add documentation. We will see a bit of that in the demo. You can also do code reviews now as part of detecting and resolving security and code quality issues with review, and also test coverage. So you can generate test cases as part of the setup in this case. So there's a question by Matthias over here. I'll just quickly address it. Q Business works very well, but is already a date when it will be available. This is being rolled out based on priorities and based on other needs. So you'll have to wait and watch. Best thing is to always look at the page for any announcement that comes in as part of which region it's going to come in next. But as we always say, it will come soon, right? So in the meantime, I would suggest if there's anything that's not critical to specifically keeping in the region, then do try it out in other regions also, so that at least you get a feel for how you can use it directly. I saw something else quickly because it just came. Understood. Yeah. So coming back to this, the other thing is also that based on your preferred ID, we also have now support with GitLab Duo that allows you to connect your ID directly with the GitLab, and then afterwards have QDeveloper give suggestions in terms of how you can do your code properly. So there's a lot of things that are already out there. Key things that we will check in this announcements over here is the /doc and /review part. But just before that, just to understand from the group over here, I know that you've been sticking around for too long, so thank you so much for that. Just a question to understand. How do you primarily plan to use QDeveloper in your development workflow? And also, you can also mention if you're already using it or you've actually tried it. It'll be really good to see how many of you are actually doing that. Cool, all of the above. That's awesome. Thanks. I think a bunch of you are documentation, especially for me, is like number one. I do that for like any project I work on right now. The first thing I do once I write some code, and if it's working, immediately I generate a README file. And you'll see how it works. It's pretty straightforward. It's pretty cool. So it does mean that you will be able to save some time with documentation as a way to do that. Cool. Thanks for that. So just quickly on the transformation part, because there are some deep dive videos already available which you can have a look at later on YouTube. So in this case, what happened is based on our customers' asks and needs. When we announced code transformation last year in 2023, this was available for Java. So this was specifically to transform a Java project from Java 8 to Java 17, because a lot of projects out there still run on Java 8, right? So you have a lot of customers who are still keeping it for various reasons, right? Migration path is not easy. Maybe it takes a long time. Dependencies is a challenge. So based on that running for the last 1 year, we have got feedback and requests for even doing it for .NET. So now .NET framework on Windows can be migrated to .NET cross-platform .NET on Linux, right? And also an upgrade to .NET 8 Plus. So in this case, what happens is that code is analyzed and then the packages are upgraded, and then it's transformed to .NET 8 Plus, and then you can review this transformation and then apply it. This is available only in Visual Studio, because if you're doing .NET, probably you're doing that. It's not available in the JetBrains Rider IDE yet, but at least this is a start. So it's a great way for you to just try that out, especially if you've been looking at trying to transform your .NET application and then move away from a Windows machine to avoid the license costs. So moving it on a Linux machine works. .NET 8 works on Linux also. It's cross-platform, so it's pretty cool. The other thing was transformation from mainframe. Now, this was a massive ask, especially for banks. As anyone over here who's been from banks, from a banking sector, you probably understand the pain, right? This whole idea of migrating applications, mainframe application, and specifically right now it's still in preview. So we've done it for IBM specifically, but there's more stuff that's coming in later. So that's COBOL on IBM, a flavor of that. So that's started, but there's going to be more after this based on customer feedback. And in this case, what happens is the code is analyzed and then it's documented, it's decomposed. And what they do is, because of how complex an application is, especially like if you see it in the financial sector, there are waves planned, because you don't want to like suddenly disrupt, right? Shut down everything and then say, okay, we're going to convert all of this code immediately into like Java. So the final output is Java. In this case, we do it only to Java as a target. But once you plan the waves, then you can then start refactoring the code, and then step by step, you can start then having all that code being changed into Java. So it not only acts as a transformation of the code, it also acts as a way to do a staggered rollout, if you know what I mean, right? So a staggered modernization of a mainframe project. So this is also in preview. This is something that if you're interested in, do reach out to your account teams so that you can talk about maybe having a demo. Already tried and created POC for customer. That's nice. That's good to know. Then transform from VMware is also available. So this is our first take on large-scale migration modernization of VMware workloads. So in this case, let's say you're having VMware on-prem and then trying to move that to the cloud. You can do inventory discovery as part of this, also network conversion and deployment, and wave planning and server migration. This is relatively new, also in preview. Something that you can have a look at because you want to like understand where it falls in your plan of modernization, right? Where it falls in terms of trying to take this VDI file over here, VDI image, and then afterwards modernize it and then put it on the cloud also, especially with the kind of setup that you're already having on-prem. You don't want to you want to make sure that you have the right security capabilities and everything already in place in the cloud, the landing zone and other things as part of that. This at a high level is what the transformation capability looks like in Q Developer. You also have a chat assistant over there in Visual Studio, but there are some commands that you can run. And then afterwards start it as a transformation job, which then does that analysis. And then afterwards suggests, okay, these are all the things that you can do. This is all the packages that are being modernized. This is all the code that's being modernized also as part of that step. So have a look at the blog post, and then you can also check out what can be done as part of it is something else is there. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay, cool. Because I have the chat open over here, so I'm noticing it at the same time. And the other thing is that if you have ever used SageMaker and you've also tried SageMaker Canvas, this is basically like one of the views that you get for SageMaker, where data scientists can provide this to other users, like business analysts, for example, where they don't have to go and write queries themselves. They don't have to write code, for example, to analyze the data. In this case, we have added Q Developer to SageMaker Canvas. So this allows anyone to connect with machine learning expertise, but without having the machine learning capabilities, right? At least from a knowledge perspective. So what they'll do is you can write natural language conversations, and then that gets converted into using existing models that are already being trained by your teams. So it's a great way for you to have for your data scientist team to give this as a front to your analyst teams, for example, or to your reporting teams or operations teams, so that they can use those models, whatever you've been training as part of that. So you don't need to have everyone become a machine learning expert. That's the way we are trying to look at it. So you want to make sure that you leverage tools like this. So you can look at SageMaker Canvas, and that has an OQ developer also built in as part of the setup. So quickly over here, as part of Create, I mentioned earlier, right? With Q Developer Agent, you can do transformation of code also. You can load the whole workspace now. So /dev is one of the agents that we released last year before the previous reinvent. And now with /doc, this is what it works. So we'll see. Now, based on this, we'll get your feedback immediately if this is useful. So let's say I have a code base over here. And as part of this code base, I am asking it to, with the /doc, I'm asking it to, okay, did it stop? I think it stopped. No, okay. With /doc, I'm going to ask it to generate a README file, right? Standard README file for a Flask application. So what it's going to do is it's going to scan the source file. It'll create a knowledge graph, create an understanding of what the file is all about. And then it starts creating a markdown file immediately, which you can then accept if you need to, or you can do a diff also. And you can see, okay, these are all the things that are there as part of the diff. It gives a structure and also does things like, okay, gives you a usage section. It gives you a troubleshooting section if needed. And you can also, of course, update that in part of the chat. You can ask it to enhance it more, which we'll see in a bit. It also does a data flow in a very simple, like stick diagram and markdown. Me personally, what I do is I use Mermaid.js. I don't know how many of you know about Mermaid.js, but what I usually do is I ask it to create Mermaid.js diagrams, right? Which is pretty cool because it's also text end of the day, which can then be rendered on GitHub, for example. So I'll just put that link over here. If you're interested, you can have a look at that. So now what I'm doing is, in this case, I'm asking it to create a database model, right? To just add this to the documentation. What it does, it will then look at the models inside. It'll create that schema, a diagram over there, and then afterwards give me that diagram, which is pretty cool because I don't need to spend time creating all of this myself. I have the code. I know it works. And then once I get this, then it's a great way to review it also and say, okay, fine, maybe I did not design it in a certain way properly because of if the agent is understanding it in this form, then maybe I've maybe messed up somewhere. So great way to have an extra pair of eyes also to create the output and then generate the documentation. The other thing is from a test case perspective, what you can now do is you can also automate end-to-end process of generating unit test cases. So a developer can easily initiate the agent by using a simple prompt like /test, for example. And once this is prompted, Amazon Q will use the knowledge of the project to automatically generate test cases. So it loads the project and then understands it. You can also view the diff of the test cases, and in that way you can accept whatever test cases you need. This is useful, especially if you want to especially if you inherit a code base and you see that there's no unit test cases, because you want to make sure before you make any changes that the code works, right? After you make some changes also, that's when you use the test cases as a harness as part of checking this. So we'll see that in the video quickly. So it creates the test cases. We accept that, and immediately what I'll do after this is I'm going to ask it to also help me to run the test cases, right? So what Q developer does is I have to give it the command, but then once I give it the command, it acts like an agent, and then afterwards it runs that in my ID. And we're going to see more of this coming in, where you're going to start seeing Q developer helping you, right, by saying, okay, fine, so if you want to run this, let me know, I can run this for you, right? So you specify the command. In this case, this is a Java file, so it will do a Maven clean and verify. That's when it will run the unit test cases. It'll start the build execution. It's pretty cool, especially if you're trying to onboard someone new to your project and they don't want to immediately go through the documentation. They want to just get that code running, just understand how it works. This is a great way to actually move the needle faster on that. The other thing is, from a security perspective, this is what it looks like. You can do a review, and then once you do a review, it will check your code for any security vulnerabilities, which are always updated at the Amazon side. We have this updated database, and then it will flag all of that. It will also give you the option on whether you want to fix it, and you can accept a fix. You can also explain it. This is a great way for any team to level up their secure coding practices, right? A great way to understand, okay, how certain code that I've written is vulnerable, and then how I can get started, writing better code. So using a tool like this so that everyone is on board, you have a baseline on how to write secure code is pretty awesome. This is kind of how you can get started with just /secure. All of this is available on the free tier, by the way. Of course, you have certain limits which you can use daily or monthly. Sorry? Hello? Okay. So that's kind of how you want to look at secure. One more other thing is that we have AWS App Studio. So this allows it allows builders to create business applications without like writing code, right? So it's a low code, no code approach. So whether you're an IT project manager, you're maybe an engineer, architect, or maybe just someone who just wants to like create something quickly, you can describe your requirements in natural language. And within minutes, App Studio generates a fully functional app with UI, data models, and custom business logic. So great way to get started, especially if you're going to test out certain Bedrock models. You can use Party Rock. I'm sure some of you have seen Party Rock before, but in this case, you can also use App Studio, because then it's for your organization, it's for your team, so that you can then share it with everyone and then have your data within the account directly. Last but not the least, even though it is not Q developer specific, this is super important. Like I said earlier, one of my favorite announcements is S3 metadata, because of the amount of time when I used to be a customer, I used to actually spend in trying to query what's happening in my S3 bucket. Similarly with CloudFormation, this is also a service that I've been using for years. And this allows you to now have a peek inside in a timeline perspective. So if you've ever seen the CloudFormation stack, you would have seen the event view, right? You've seen that list of events which just keeps growing and growing, and then you're trying to figure out, okay, where all the errors happen, at what time or at what sequence it happened. So usually you'll find that out. You search for an error, it'll come up, and that view is not going anywhere. That's still the main view, but this is like an additional view which allows you to see it like a Gantt chart, right, of sorts. So you see it as a timeline, so you know exactly what things are happening where, and then you can figure out, okay, fine, this error happened at so and so time. Maybe there was some other dependency which because of which it failed, or maybe it was just because of like security policies or so on and so forth. I think this is super cool to see that CloudFormation still gets a lot of love, even in terms of enhancing the view, because we have a lot of users who are using it, and then afterwards trying to figure out. Always look for the first error. Exactly, right. Always you look for the first error, and then after that you will go to CloudWatch if something fails miserably after that also. But CloudFormation usually is really good for understanding all those issues. So yeah, I mean that's my last slide. I will move this to our feedback survey form. This is super important. Please do provide your feedback, and I'm happy. I mean, we are around. I think we still have like another 6 minutes. We're happy to take if there's any questions, or if you want to talk about anything very specific about any of the announcements. Other than regional, when things are coming back in the region, the answer is the same. I mean, whenever it happens, we will announce it. And any region specific release always goes through things like customer requirements, preferences, and a lot of other things that we have as priority. So beyond seeing XYZ, when is XYZ coming in this region? Happy to take any other question. And in the meantime, do provide your feedback also. Which announcement has been the most favorite for everyone over here? If you could just put it in the chat, that'll be nice to hear. I'm sure. I mean, for me, DynamoDB 50% is also amazing. It's like hands down, like so awesome, right? Yes, EKS. So you know what's the funny thing about auto mode? So I was there. We were there at reInvent, right? And we were all waiting for the auto mode the announcement to happen at reInvent. But it happened the day before reInvent started. It was on a Sunday, and reInvent started on Monday. And we're like, oh, we were happy that it released fast, but it's like it wasn't released on stage. So it was like a bummer moment for all of us. We were like, oh my god, this is so important, because anyone who's used EKS has been waiting for this kind of an this autopilot, auto mode kind of an approach, right? Where you can have this cluster managed fully, especially for a team, someone who just wants to get the cluster up and running without understanding or without going into the weeds of things. So yeah, I mean, auto mode definitely is a nice one. DSQL is also amazing. I saw a bunch of you actually said DSQL also before when Abdelrahman asked the question. DB 50% exactly for any application, especially serverless. We've been doing it reduces the cost with that. And EKS auto mode. I just wanted to share that in the GenAI topics knowledge base was probably the service inside Bedrock. An unbelievable level of quality compared to. Nice. Okay, that's good to know, Matthias. Thank you so much for that. Maybe definitely a topic that you can share about if you have. I think you mentioned a couple of projects and all before. A future talk at the Riyadh user group, inshallah. I think that would be awesome to hear. So it's always good to hear from the community about projects that you're working on with within your teams or with customers that you're doing. Anything that you can share publicly, it's amazing to hear, because it's always good to see good practices and what worked and what didn't work, right? So yeah, thanks for that. Cool. Is there anything else over here? Let's see.
Okay. Faz? Yes,
Yeah.
I think that's bring us to the end of our session today. A huge thank you to Abdulrahman and you for your time and for your very well presentation. Yani, but before stopping the recording, let me stop the recording. Okay, stop.